Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to everyone. This is Apo Adman Agama of Templong Anituhan ng Luntiang Agama, which is former Luntiang Agama Natural Divine Arts and Healing, and welcome to the Pagan World Congress. First of all, I would like to thank Reverend Mary and Lord Don Lewis for having me to have an opportunity to speak up here about reclaiming our indigenous spiritual and indigenous nativist spirituality. So to start with, I would like to talk about this. In a world shaped by migration, colonization, and globalization, the word indigenous often evokes images of tribal people, ancestral lands, and ancient tradition. It is a term that carries both reverence and responsibility. But today, I invite you to expand your understanding of indigeneity, not as labeled reserved for a few people, but as a universal truth that lives within each of us. To be indigenous is to be rooted in the spirit, in memory, in relationship. It is not solely defined by ethnicity or geography, but by the sacred connection we hold with the earth, our ancestors, and the spaces we call home. Before broadcasting live, I was talking with Reverend Mary about the indigenous people and the importance of this topic that I am going to present to you. Because there are many people right now who are lost. People will think that to become indigenous, you should be part of the indigenous group or indigenous community. Like in America, what I know is only the Iraqi and the Cherokee. Here in the Philippines, you have to be part of, of the Igorot, the Mangyan, etc., etc. But for us who live in the city, we might lost our identity because we possess multiple races along the generation line. And some people would say to remove all of this in order to be decolonized. For us Filipino, yes, we are very hardly colonized. We have lost our indigenous identity, especially going to the West. And right now, it is obvious that I'm talking in English, but this tool that I have, knowing how to speak in English, makes me or allows me to reach out people who does not speak our native language. And it's good enough that we could express I am at least not that good, but I was able to express myself in English that you may understand, no? And if we remove all those identity that been covered for us, for example, me, I know how to speak in English. My family lineage has some Chinese blood, Spanish blood. I'm Tagalog. My father is Bisaya. If we remove all of this into our being, it will left us to be nothing at all. We belong to the goddess and the God who create us. But let me continue. I will discuss the essence of indigeneity. Indigenous identity is a multidimensional. One, it is spiritual, a calling to live in harmony with nature and the unseen realms. Two, it is philosophical, a worldview that sees all life as interconnected and sacred. Three, it is about resilience, a commitment to preserve ancestral wisdom in the face of erasure. Four, embodied, a practice of healing ritual and alignment with the elemental forces. Five, it is universal, a memory that lives in every soul waiting to be awakened. In the tradition of Hilat Binabaylan, our tradition, we do not merely treat illness, we restore balance between the body, spirit, and the cosmos. We walk as vessels of ancestral healing, guided by the Diwata and the Anito, which is the deities, and attuned to the rhythms of nature. So, claiming our indigenous identity does not always comes on becoming part of a certain group, indigenous people. You are an indigenous. If you see yourself, of course, all of us, we might have some places. If we define indigenous to be a native on a certain land, we are native, no? Although it is the fault of our parents to be an explorer, but that was the first thing. We all become nomad no, nomadic, that we travel in every places to explore the world. But when our grandfather got tired, they settled on the place, and then people stay, and we become native of that land. But when I remember, I remember doing the peace prayer journey at the International Pagan IPR, International Pagan Radio. I have a presentation about peopling the United States or the America, and I see that there is land bridges from Alaska to Siberia, Siberia to Alaska, that the native people crossed. So sometimes I see, especially the native Indians, American Indians, no, um, they might be coming from Asia. And for us in the Philippines, we have black people also here. We have the Negritos, and there is a Sundaland, a Churi, that people that that the reason why people have there is people in our archipelago is because they travel through that Sundaland, and they might come from Africa, no, on the heart of Africa. So people just travel. We are nomad. And if we move, we might not become native anymore. We all belong to one race, which is the human race. We are all migrants. Even the birds right now, you could notice they are migrants, migratory birds. They travel a lot. No? So, indigenous to our family homes, let us now reflect on a deeper truth. We are indigenous to our family homes. Our homes are not just shelters, they are living altars. They hold the echoes of our childhood, the prayers of our elders, and the energies of our lineage. They are sacred spaces where our identity was formed and our spirit was nurtured. So it means we are first indigenous to our home. It is our mother who gave us birth. It is our father who cared for us. And our family is our own tribe. We are first indigenous to our home. So to be indigenous to our home means honoring the stories and spirit that dwells within, recognizing the home as a microcosm of the sacred, creating rituals of healing and consecration in our daily lives. Nowadays, most home, either Filipino home, American home, or Asian home, whatever it is, we are now being dominated and colonized by modern ideas that comes from the internet, social media, television, newsprint, etc., etc. If we want to become indigenous, let us value the home where we come from. It is hard to control or to discipline or to teach people if they are being hardly influenced by the outside world. And the outside world tends to pull you up from the safe space that you belong. And later, I will read a story that you may be relate to. No? So in Templong Antiohan, we teach that every space can become a dambana of ginhawa or shrine of comfort, a shrine of comfort and renewal. Whether in a mountain village or in the urban apartment, the spirit of indigeneity can be invoked, lived, and celebrated. In this Congress of Pagan Tradition, let us affirm that indigeneity is not exclusive, but it is inclusive. That every human being carries as an ancestral memory and sacred potential. That our homes, our bodies, and our communities can be reclaimed as a sacred ground. You are indigenous, not because of where you were born, but because of how you choose to live in reverence, in relationship, and in remembrance. Let us walk together as steward of the earth, as healers of our people, and as keepers of the sacred flame. So now, are you ready to hear a story? So before I end this story, I will leave to everyone. So The title of the story that I'm going to tell is about the language of love, a story of indigenous nativist spirituality. So the story goes like this. So I will just sit comfortably. Wait. Now, I will lie on this. So long ago, before the world was divided by borders and tongues, the people lived in harmony in their homes made of earth and woven leaves. They laughed together, shared their harvest, and danced beneath the moonlight. There was no need for arguments, for no one sought to be above another. Each soul was honored, each life is sacred. In those days, language was not spoken, it was lived. The people did not rely on words to understand one another. Their language was the language of love, a gentle touch, a shared meal, song hummed while planting rice. It was in the way a mother cradled her child, the way elder passed wisdom through stories etched in the stars and the wind. Every gesture was a prayer, every action a poem. They spoke through the rhythm of the land, through the rustling of leaves and the flowing of rivers. The birds carried messages, the fire whispered truths, and the rain sang lullabies. The people listened, not with ears but with hearts. This was the time of the Diwata and the Anito, when the spirits walked among the living, not as God to be feared, but as kin to be embraced. How wonderful. So long time ago, the gods walked with us and with us. No? So let me just continue. The sacred was not distant. It was in the soil, in the breath, in the silence between two people who simply understood. And so the people lived not in isolation, but in communion, not in conquest, but in care. Their spirituality was not a doctrine, but a way of being. It was the knowing that all things are connected and that love, when lived fully, needs no translation. Then one day, a foreigner came. He arrived from across the sea, speaking in a tongue no one in the village understood. His words were sharp, his gestures unfamiliar. The people in the house watched with quiet curiosity, unsure of what the stranger, whom they called as Dayo, was trying to say. Among them was a young man named Taka, whose heart was open and eager to understand. Taka approached Dayo, befriended him, and began to study his ways. He listened to Dayo's language, observed his mannerism, and learned how Dayo thought and moved. Taka's curiosity grew into admiration, and admiration into imitation. Slowly, Taka began to change. He spoke less with his hand and heart, and more with words foreign to his skin. He dressed like Dayo, walked like Dayo, even changed the color of his skin to resemble Dayo. The transformation was so complete that when Taka returned to his family, they did not recognize him. He no longer moved with the rhythm of the land. His action no longer resonated with the silent language of love. He spoke out loud, in Dayo's tongue, and expected to be understood. But his family could not hear him, not because they lacked ear, but because the connection had been severed. Taka had become someone else. His bond with Dayo grew stronger, but the thread that tied him to his family, to his ancestors, and to the spirit of the land was cut. He had traded his identity for belonging in a world that was not his own. This is the story of what had happened to us. When the colonizer came, we were like Taka, curious, open, and eager to connect. Just like people here in the Philippines when talking about America. Oh, I love America. I love America. I want to go to America and everything else about America or onto the Western world. And because of that admiration, people come to that place. And when they are in America or in the Western part of the world, the Western part of the world have eaten the personality of some of our Filipino people, Filipino friends. And when they come back, They just look like foreign. No? So this is a real story about our culture of the Filipinos, of some indigenous people that embrace the Western world. No? So when the colonizer came, we were like Taka, curious, open, and eager to connect. But in doing so, we were reshaped. Our language was replaced. Our skin was lightened. Our spirituality was silenced. We were taught to speak, but not to feel. We were taught to obey and not to remember. We lost our connection to our family, just to be accepted by those outside it. We lost our identity, which once rooted us to our ancestral land, our Diwata, our Anito, and and the silent language of love. Let me just read this. I'm about to cry, no? Parang this is very emotional. But the story does not end here. For even in forgetting, there is a path to remembering. Even in transformation, there is a seed of return. And just as the land waits patiently for the rain, our ancestors await for us to come home. Taka lived many years in the world of Dayo. He spoke fluently in Dayo's tongue, wore Dayo's clothes, and followed Dayo's custom. He was praised by Dayo's people, given titles and honors, and taught to believe that his old ways were primitive and unworthy. The songs of his ancestors faded from his memory, replaced by foreign hymns and foreign dreams. But deep within him, something stirred. It began as a whisper in the wind, soft, familiar, and haunting. Then came the dreams. Vision of his mother hand weaving mats, of his father planting rice with bare feet, of elders chanting beneath the moon. He saw the fire again, the river, the mountain. He heard the language of love, not spoken but felt. Taka began to question. He looked at his reflection and saw a stranger. His skin once kissed by the sun of his homeland, now pale and foreign. His voice was gentle and rhythmic, now echoed with sharpness. He no longer danced with the earth. He walked on it like a conqueror. One day, he returned to the village. But the people did not welcome him. They saw Dayo in his face, in his speech, in his ways. The children hid behind their mothers. Their elders turned away. Even the land seemed silent, as if mourning of his transformation. Taka wept. He wandered in the forest, seeking solitude. There, beneath the ancient balete tree, or willow tree, he met an old babaylan, or shaman. She looked at she looked at him with eyes that saw beyond skin and speech. She did not ask who he was. She already knew. You are lost, she said, but not gone. She taught him again the language of the land. She showed him how to listen to the wind, how to speak with the fire, how to feel the heartbeat of the soil. She reminded him of the Diwata and the Anito, of the sacred names and rituals of remembrance. Actually, it's so wonderful if you learn the language of the land, no? The language of the wind and how to speak with the fire. This is what I've learned embracing our indigenous culture and tradition. This is also what I learned from the Corellian tradition. So Taka began to unlearn. He removed the clothes of Dayo and wore the woven garment of his people. He bathed in the river that once carried his childhood laughter. He sat with the elders, not to teach, but to learn. He no longer spoke to be heard. He acted to be felt. Sometimes action is more speak louder than words. Slowly, his family began to see him again, not as Dayo, but as Taka. His skin darkened once more under the sun. His voice softened, his action resonated. He no longer imitated, he remembered. The connection was restored not by words, but by love. And so, Taka became whole. He did not reject Dayo, but he no longer needed to become him. He embraced his own identity, rooted in the land, in the spirit, in the silent language of land. He became a bridge, not to be crossed, but to be honored. This is the story of resistance. This is the story of awakening. This is the story of remembering who we are. Taka's journey was not his own. It was the journey of every soul who had once been part of the great family of the land, but who had wandered far from it, seduced by foreign lights, foreign words, and foreign dreams. His awakening was a mirror, reflecting the truth that many had forgotten, that we are not lost, only waiting to be found. Now, Taka walks with purpose. He teaches now with pride. He teaches not with pride, but with humility. He does not preach, but he lives the way of his ancestor. He plants, he heals, he sings, he listens to the wind and speaks with the fire. He walks barefoot on the soil of his birth, and every step is a prayer. And those who hear the story, he says, you too can come home and return. You do not need to change your name, your skin, or your soul to be accepted. You do not need to speak the language of Dayo to be heard. You only need to remember the language of love, the language of your people, your land, and your spirit. Let us resist not with anger, but with remembrance. Let us awaken not with noise, but with silence that listens deeply. Let us, let us reconnect with our families, our ancestors, our sacred places. Let us walk again the path of the Diwata and the Anito, or the deities. Let us honor the rituals, the songs, the stories that were once whispered beneath the stars. This is your call to return to the house where love was never spoken but always felt, to reclaim the identity that was never lost, only hidden, to become someone else but truly yourself. You are not Dayo, but you are Taka, and the land is waiting for you to come home. So now, from the story of Taka and Dayo, we can now draw several profound key points that guide us in reclaiming our indigenous nativist identity and spirituality. These insights are not just symbolic, but they are practical steps toward cultural healing and spiritual restoration. So, number one, let us remember the language of love. So, what kind of language do you speak? It might be English, Tagalog, French, or whatever language it is. But that is not the point. That is the language you speak with the people. But how do you speak within your family? Indigenous spirituality is rooted in actions, relationship, and presence, not just spoken words. Reclaiming our identity begins by living our values: compassion, respect, reciprocity through daily acts. Sometimes, if you are learned and you went to school and you had this high education, we could listen that they have good education. They speak fluently in English. They are well mannered. But sometimes that kind of behavior separate us. Na parang for me, I am afraid of doctors. I don't know because they are well educated, and me, I only possess this education from the earth, from our culture, the indigenous knowledge and sciences. No? But anyway, second, recognize the impact of colonization. Like Taka, many of us have been reshaped by foreign systems, such as the language, religion, education, and appearance. Awareness of this transformation is the first step to resistance. We must name we must name what was lost to begin the journey of return. Such as for us, the Filipino, we are being called with our Spanish names, like Rolando Gomez Comon. And we have forgotten our real identity. That's why the Templong Anituhan, Luntiang Agama, have created the Bansagan Talatanda naming ritual. It's just like a baptism, a baptism, no? A naming ceremony where we could be also called into our Filipino name, such as my name as Apo Adman Agama, a native indigenous Filipino name. And we, if there is a Filipino out there, you could reach me out. to have a bansagan ceremony wherein a diwata will bless you your own identity a decolonized name. No? So number three, um, awaken the memory of the ancestors. Dreams, rituals, and nature often carry ancestral messages, and this is especially true about the teachings of the Diwata, our local deities here in the Philippines. They have spoken to us through dreams, no? And through omens, and through rituals. Reconnecting with oral tradition, sacred sites, and indigenous practice help us remember who we truly are. And it really helps me when I conduct rituals, when we conduct offerings, prayers, pag-aatang, and everything. Those indigenous practices are the old ways how our ancestors worship our own gods. And learn to relearn. Deconstruct the colonial mindset that taught us to devalue our own culture. Relearn indigenous ways of thinking, healing, and relating to the world through ritual, community, and land-based wisdom. And this is the reason why I teach Hilot. It is our indigenous healing system, and we try to reach out many Filipino as we can all around the world. And we have started last year in California and this year in Hawaii. And next year I will be going again to Hawaii to work with the indigenous people of Hawaii and to the Filipino people also that lives there. No? Reclaim indigenous language and symbols. Language is a vessel of spirit. Have you know that we have our own alphabet that is called Baybayin? No, so that's why we are teaching those Filipino how also to write Baybayin, no, through Bayos at Tala. And I'm glad that the Corellian tradition also have our own writing system, which is the Corellian alphabet. No? But anyway, language is a vessel of the spirit. Every fluency is lost. Reviving native words, chants, and symbol restore spiritual connection. Use indigenous terms in ritual, storytelling, and daily life to reinvigorate cultural memory. Six, reconnect with the land. Indigenous identity is inseparable from the land. The soil, rivers, mountains, and trees are living relatives. So if we want to, no, spare time to come back here in the Philippines or to go to your native land just to have a field trip to connect yourself. And I think, no, the Corellian members of the Corellian tradition, they have a nice uh, practice of going to the Vermilion River under the hill where where the first place of the Corellian tradition was practiced. No, it is a nice of coming back home to where our tradition have started. No, engage in land-based practices like planting, walking barefoot, and offering rituals to nature. Number seven, restore family and community bond. Colonization often severed ties with family and tribe. Healing comes through rebuilding relationship and honoring elders. So in order for us to at least have plan to have a dinner, a lunch or breakfast together, no? And on the table, I will suggest cut off the cell phone, drop off the cell phone. Usually what I see, no, I think Instagram culture already that before eating you take picture. No, treat every meal as a sacred meal of gathering with the family. Instead of watching television, listening to the music, listen to what the people in front of you is telling. Reconnect one another through food that you eat. Practice communal ritual, storytelling circle, and shared meals to strengthen kinship. No. Number eight, live the spiritual path, not just study it. Indigenous spirituality is not a belief system; it is a way of life. That's why there is no, di ba, on modern churches there is doctrine classes, wherein you have to complete the doctrine class in order for you to become a part of that religion. For us in Templong Anituan, we do not have that doctrine class as a membership admission, no? But we have remembering class to help you remember who you are, no? So embody the teachings through daily ritual, seasonal observance, and sacred responsibility. Number nine, become a bridge, not a copy. Like Taka, we can learn from others, but we must not lose ourselves. Be a bridge between worlds, honoring your roots, navigating modern life with integrity. And number 10, call others to return. The journey of one becomes a path of many. Share your story, teach the rituals, and invite others to remember healing is collective. And this is the reason why I'm sharing this to you, so that you may also remember. I do not intend to influence or to colonize you, but my pure intention is to share the value of being indigenous. You might lose your identity right now. You might say you're not indigenous, but you are a colonizer. But even you as a colonizer, being white, there is some indigenous identity within you. Claim it back. Restore yourself. Speak not louder, but act more louder. No? So with this, let us close. I want to give blessings to everyone. Breathe deeply and say, I am child of the earth. I am a vessel of spirit. I am indigenous to my home. Let this truth guide your path, your practice, and your purpose. And it is so, so mote it be. Mayari na, taga sa atin. So until here, everyone, thank you very much. I thought it will be 50 minutes, but we have done it for 30 minutes. So until then, congratulations, Pagan World Congress. Until then, bye.